to the left, and the gents is there, and keep following around to the right. The ladies is there. And there is a disabled toilet there as well. Okay.
Morning, everyone. And here is our reading for the morning. And Mary said, "My soul glorifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for he has been mindful of the humble state of his servant. From now on, all generations will call me blessed, for the Mighty One has done great things for me. Holy is his name. His mercy extends to those who fear him from generation to generation. He has performed mighty deeds with his arm. He has scattered those who are proud in their inmost thoughts. He has brought down the rulers from their thrones, but has lifted up the humble. He has filled the hungry with good things, but has sent the rich away empty. He has helped his servant Israel, remembering to be merciful to Abraham and his descendants forever, just as he promised our ancestors."
Thank you, Kesewa. I'm afraid there's been a lot of congregation participation this morning, but I have, I think, hopefully the final piece for you. Could you shout out your unfiltered very first word that comes to mind when I say to you, Mary, Mother of Jesus? Blessed, young. What a great woman. Mighty. Faithful, brave, virgin, yeah, chosen, dedicated. Oh, great. You're all excellent theologians, because you didn't say some of the possibly more stereotypical things about Mary. I'll come back to some of those words later. This morning, I am going to talk to us a bit more about Mary. Heidi did a fantastic job a couple of weeks ago talking about the richness of Elizabeth and Mary and their connection and their journey with one another, and the joy of and the richness and the beauty of intergenerational relationships. But Mary has been on my mind a lot this Advent, like a little niggle that's sort of drawn me to her story again and again, and that just wouldn't go away. So I was actually going to speak about something else this morning, but Mary, I just couldn't let go of the sort of grip that she had on me this Advent. So I'm going to be lots of what I say is not going to be anything new, but I've drawn from some really rich resources this Advent. So there's a few on the slides if you want to reference them back. One is this amazing book, The Book of Mary, by feminist theologian Nicholas Slee. It's quite intense at points, but there's an amazing collection of poems and thoughts and reflections on the person of Mary. So do have a look at that if you'd like to after. I'm happy to lend it out. But I wanted to start with a video this morning that does the rounds every Christmas, and the scene is a church nativity in the mid-90s. Thomas, if you hit the space bar, hopefully it should just... Yeah, there we go. Oh, sneak preview. If we just pause it there, thank you. Now, That does the rounds at Christmas every year. But I have my own rather similar story to tell you. When I was about 7 or 8, I was in a performance of The Wizard of Oz. And if you go on to the next slide, as it's Christmas, I thought I would embarrass myself for all of your delight. Here I am in one picture as a munchkin in The Wizard of Oz, and in the other a winged monkey. So I was cast in this play of The Wizard of Oz. If you don't know The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy is swept away by a tornado, lands in the magical land of Oz, crushes a wicked witch, and liberates the munchkins in doing so. Anyway, we're rehearsing this play. I'm getting really into it. I'm singing my heart out. And I can only imagine that I probably sounded a lot like that angel in the Nativity, because we get to the end of the rehearsal and the director stops and she says to our group of munchkins, "Everyone sing louder except Rebecca." And it's a funny story. It genuinely is a funny story. But it stuck with me. And partly it stuck with me because it's a funny story. But also, without wanting to get too deep, I think sometimes there are these moments, maybe we just take the slide of me as a munchkin off the screen because it might be a bit distracting. Without it wanting to become too deep, it became a story that became a bit of a caricature of my character. As a child, I was maybe a bit too much, a bit too loud, too bossy was the classic strong girl character trait that was plastered onto me. Too enthusiastic. And again, I don't think it was that moment, but some of those caricatures and some of those narratives carried themselves through with me. And I've actually spent a lot of adulthood trying to work out how to shake them off after spending a lot of my teens trying to stifle those parts of me that felt too much, trying to shrink myself smaller. And I think we often fall into these traps of caricaturing one another, or even ourselves, and of either letting these narratives play out and leaning into them, or of trying to squash them. I've often tried to squash these traits through embarrassment of being too much. I wonder what descriptors get attributed to you most. And I wonder whether they feel true to who you are. And I wanted to come back to Mary because of all the people in the Christmas story, I think we fall into the trap of caricaturing her constantly. She's often heralded due to her fundamental role in the story of the birth of Jesus, but she is so often misrepresented. I think you've done well. If you were being truthful in your first thoughts, I'm impressed. But I wonder what else are the words we often hear about Mary. Meek, mild, obedient. Maybe at best brave. As Mary willingly takes on this role as the mother of Jesus. And I think we squash and stifle Mary. We reduce her to a two-dimensional, peaceful Christmas card picture. We flatten and sanitize her. And at worst, she's simply a walking womb for the Son of God. Nicholas Lee in this book puts it like this. Mary has been held up as the ideal of the perfect woman, the submissive, sexless, all-sorrowing mother, without conflict, anger, or indeed voice. And that is hardly an image to inspire contemporary disciples. The perfect woman, submissive, sexless, all-sorrowing. And who does reducing Mary to this image serve? It only serves patriarchy. It only serves very few powerful men by keeping the powerful, fierce, prophetic voice of the Mother of God in a subservient box. All we do is continue to serve patriarchal narratives that I actually don't think serve any of us well, including men. And so I'm going to spend some time this morning reminding us a little of who Mary was. We don't have very much direct access, or any, to the historical Mary. And the process of selection of the biblical text means what we do see of the Bible, of Mary's character, has mostly been handed through men. And so most of our understanding of Mary actually comes through a male lens of what it means to be a woman. But Mary surely was a multifaceted, multi-dimensional whole person. And we should allow her all the complexity that we all have as humans. We should fight through the layers of patriarchy to see a fuller picture of Mary. We do know some of the historical context that Mary was living in. She was in the northern Palestinian region of Galilee, in a rural area under Roman occupation. Nazareth, I don't know if any of you are fans of the Christmas film Nativity. There, things are really cool in Nazareth. The city is full of joy. This is where girl meets boy. I'm not going to sing. Check out Nativity if you don't know what I'm referencing. However, Nazareth was neither a city, probably not full of joy, and probably things weren't really cool there. In fact, it was a tiny farming village full of people who were being taxed really high amounts, who were living in poverty. They were living in what was known as a client territory of the Roman Empire. They were under the rule of the dynasty of King Herod rather than the direct rule of Rome. But the kings were still subservient to Rome. And the Roman influence still prevailed throughout Galilee. And it would have shaped the experience of the Galilean people. Beneath the apparent calm in Nazareth, there was the simmering tension between Roman control and the Jewish longing for deliverance. It was a politically charged region. Luke's gospel, which we read from, doesn't provide us a detailed history, but it does provide a picture of the world that Jesus was born into, one of economic hardship and of abusive power. And Luke's gospel takes advantage of this time and place where Jesus is situated and makes the point loud and clear that Jesus is coming to bring a subversive kingdom that rules not by force, but through humility. And Luke's gospel also creates space for women in a way that other parts of the biblical narrative don't. And I think it's actually quite remarkable, given the weight of patriarchy at the time, that Mary is given the airtime that she is. Given how little power women at the time hold, we see glimmers in Luke's gospel of the agency that women reclaim. We can see this in Mary's initial interaction with Gabriel, the angel, in Luke, which Will Gaffney highlights in her piece that she wrote. Did Mary say, "Me too"? She says that even in patriarchal culture, Mary knows that her body belongs to her. When Gabriel comes to deliver this news of Jesus being born, she says, "How can this be?" Will Gaffney says she hears, "Since I have not done what you're suggesting yet, how will this thing work?" In that initial moment in the interaction, Will Gaffney says, Mary withholds her consent. She has questions and she has not yet agreed to this. Not yet. And in a world that probably didn't recognize her ownership of her body and the agency of her body, that didn't understand how we do now ideas of consent, this young woman has the dignity and courage to question the messenger of the living God and what would happen to her body before giving her consent. This is important, Will Gaffney thinks, and so do I. Before Mary said yes, she says, "Wait a minute, explain this to me." And that has been left in the text despite the layers of it being handed through male lenses. Mary gets to reclaim some agency over her body. The story of Mary's yes in the Bible is often held up. Her obedience is also held up. But I think we should also hold up Mary's hang on, wait a minute. I think that tells us something of God and what God asks for us. Isn't obedience without questioning, but is the space to say, hang on, wait a minute. And when we take into consideration then Mary's power and agency, when we read the words that Kessewa read to us, he has performed mighty deeds with his arm. He's scattered those who are proud in their inmost thoughts. He's brought down rulers from their thrones and has lifted up the humble, but filled the hungry with good things, but sent the rich away empty. The Magnificat, Mary's song, these powerful words that I think we sometimes just gloss over as a song of praise, show us that God, in the words of Rachel Held Evans, has indeed chosen sides. And she says, it's not with narcissistic kings, but with an unwed, unbelieved teenage girl entrusted with the holy task of birthing, nursing, and nurturing God. This song of Mary has such power, is so revolutionary and so radical that these words have been banned in at least 3 countries at different moments in history. Because the words in them were thought to be too subversive, too much of a threat to power. In the 80s, the government in Guatemala banned any public recitation of the Magnificat. And in Argentina, the mothers of the Plaza de Mayo, whose children disappeared during war, placed the Magnificat's words, God has brought down the mighty from their thrones, on posters throughout the capital's plaza. And the military of Argentina outlawed any public display of Mary's song after that. It was banned from being sung in churches under British colonial rule, because these words of Mary hold such power that they were deemed to be dangerous. And yet these words break through in the text, and the depth and strength and courage and power of Mary are hidden in plain sight. I think we also do a disservice to this story of Mary, because I think the other thing we can often do with her is that we reduce Mary and her womanhood to mothering. And then we reduce her mothering to all the soft, nurturing, gentle stuff. And I think we still do this so often in the way that we perceive women now. I think we do this even here in our attempts to be more progressive when we use female pronouns for God, but we still tend to use these in the more flowery, soft, nurturing, gentle descriptions. I was talking briefly with Flick yesterday. Flick wrote a second verse for this song that we sing, Praise Him, Ye Heavens. And the second verse that she wrote, it talks about God as she, and it talks about God as our refuge, our liberty, our justice, our guidance, our path. It's a great example of not reducing the way we talk about women to the meek and the mild. There is another way to do it. Because of course Mary can be scared. She can be questioning. She can be full of fear. She can be at risk. She can be vulnerable. But she can also be fierce and prophetic and powerful and experience all of the fullness of humanity. if we can have the imagination to take her off the pedestal and bring her into our understanding of humanity. Just as Jesus comes in the midst of the wonderfully ordinary and the painfully turbulent, so too that is the space that Mary exists in. Because these simplified narratives about who Mary is don't only do women a disservice, but I think also men. Some of the most gentle, emotionally intuitive, nurturing people in my life are men. And some of the fiercest, boldest prophetic voices are women, and vice versa. And I think the point is, and I might be preaching to the choir here, but I think even in our context, we can fall into these traps and we can make these mistakes. Reducing ourselves and those around us to these one-dimensional characters. So to circle back to my very loud singing voice in The Wizard of Oz, we can so easily slip into those traps of caricaturing each other, only seeing the surface or the most seemingly obvious traits. But what do we miss by not looking closely enough, or only buying into what we see or hear from somebody else? What richness and depth do we lose by not seeing the fullness of one another's humanity? And all the beautiful and broken, and the bold and the quiet, and the serious and the funny. Where do we lean on one another to embrace the fullness of who we are? Because we can only do this in community. We are whole people, full of layers, but we are truly ourselves as we live and explore that, I believe, together in community. I'm quite a naturally serious person, and so I know that I sometimes need my community and those who surround me to help me find joy and levity and funniness in a situation. We're all multi-dimensional people, each individual, glorious one of us, and even more so when we can live out our truest selves in community together, not bound by those caricatures or trying to portray an image that we think is expected of us, but knowing the deep truth of being made in the image of God. And so as we head into this Christmas week, my prayer and my hope is that we would be reminded again and again and again that the story of the Nativity, the story of Mary, the unfolding story of Jesus is good news of liberation to the poor, to the oppressed, to the marginalized. That is the antidote to striving. And instead is the embracing of the endlessly life-giving love of God. My challenge for myself and for all of us is that we be bold enough to bravely be the fullness of who we're called to be. To push the boundaries of who it is possible that God is, that Mary is, and of who we are and what we're being led into. I'm going to end this morning by reading one of the poems from this book. It's called Mary Still Singing. I am the singer of the song of justice. I am the dancer of the coming age. I am the artist of God's new revolution. I'm the writer of history's fresh page. I am the daughter of my people's suffering. I am the mother of my nation's hope. I am the sister of an unbroken struggle. I am the kinswoman of disenfranchised folk. I am the prophet of an unimagined future. I'm the pioneer of an impossible dream. I am the wisdom of an implausible folly. I am the midwife of your destiny unseen. Amen.
Thanks so much, Rebecca.